Hi everybody, good evening, and welcome to another Facebook Live. Tonight we're going to be looking at one of the principles that happens in relationships that makes relationships work. So we all know why relationships are bad. There's lots and lots of reasons why relationships are bad and why they don't work, but ultimately, what happens in good relationships that actually makes them work? So I'm Rick Cardwell. If you've got any questions, then please pop them in comments for me or private message me. Always happy to answer questions as soon as I can and when I can. I enjoy doing that, so please do ask. And also, it gives me ideas for what to bring to you in these lives in the hope that it will enable you to think differently about your relationship and maybe to improve that as well. Okay, so what is happening in good relationships which maintains the intimacy and keeps it alive? Okay, so this information is really well researched, really well documented, and very factual. So I find this stuff really helpful, and uh, and we know that it works because it's researched done over many, many years. So it's pretty good stuff, really. So there's a number of principles which help us to keep a relationship alive and keep a relationship intimate. And the first one is friendship. Now, everybody that's happy in a relationship will always say, oh, yeah, he's my best friend and we have a great friendship. But actually, the question is then, well, what is friendship in a relationship? What makes friendship in a relationship? Because it sounds pretty obvious, really, that friendship is part of being in a relationship. But what does that actually mean? So the research that the prominent research in this area shows that a good friendship within a relationship involves maintaining intimacy in a relationship, and intimacy and friendship are very, very much combined. So we're going to look at friendship and how it works in a relationship and how you can achieve that friendship at the levels that will help your relationship stay really, really healthy. So there are three ingredients to friendship, and working on these three things will promote intimacy and it will help keep your relationship working really, really well. Now, the first one to enhance friendship and your relationship is what researchers call a love map. Okay. And what that means is that you, as a person, when you look at your partner, you have an inner world map of what you perceive your partner to be like. So that's what you make up in your mind to form this map of how you see your partner. And you make this up in the inner psychological world that you have. And both of you have this map based on the perceptions of your partner. Now, to create this map is kind of a process of feeling that you understand your partner. So it's important that you understand your partner, which is why we have the map. And it's important that you know him and vice versa, that you know each other. And this map is like the document that is laid out in front of you that gives you the information about what you know about your partner. And it's about being interested in each other because this map is really, really important. So it's about knowing who the main people are, for example, in your partner's world. What causes them to feel stressed out? What do they find exciting? What are some of your partner's hopes and dreams or aspirations and values? So the more detail that you have on this psychological map, and the more you understand about your partner that can fit into this map, the greater detail that you have, then the more valuable the map is. Now, the only way to find the information out that you need for your map is to ask questions. So asking questions within a relationship, open-ended questions, is extremely important and it has a lot of significance. So, and I'm not talking asking questions about the trivial stuff or, the day-to-day stuff. When you ask questions and you sit with your partner, you should be asking questions like, how are you feeling with all the stuff that's going on at work right now? Or, do you like our house? Are you happy where we live? What would you like for us to be doing in 5 years' time? Because these answers will go into your map and you'll have a greater familiarity of your partner that creates intimacy. Now, some people do this very, very naturally. Some people are naturally good at asking open-ended questions, are very curious, and other people just don't do it. Now, when I talk to people who don't do this, they usually say, well, how do you do it? So I tell them how to do it, asking open-ended questions, and they go away and do that. And they see a real benefit to that in that they begin to understand the partner more. That's very important in a relationship. So if you really want to make an impact on your relationship and up the level of communication, then stop making statements and start asking questions. You'll find that people will change because people very rarely ask questions. We make statements and we broadcast what we feel and what we think. And what we feel and what we think is right is what we like to make statements on. Instead, with your partner, with your people that you want to feel close to and have close relationships, you should ask questions instead like, what do you feel about this? Because what you're doing is getting information to help put more detail into your love map. So second point that creates deep friendship within a relationship. Again, it kind of sounds pretty obvious, but the second one is fondness, being fond of somebody and having admiration for them. And this is built up in tiny steps which are persistent and regular. So this is about communicating your appreciation, really, and your respect in very small ways. And what that means is to meaningfully say things like, thank you, and I'm really proud of you, and I respect the fact that you do the things that you do, or I'm so happy that you do these things for me, and I really appreciate that when I'm not about, you do these things. But you should do that regularly, very, very regularly, and show deep appreciation and admiration for what your partner does, as they should for you. Now, sometimes in therapy, I can be talking to couples, and I may say to one partner something like, when your first date or when you first met your partner, how did you feel and what did you see when you had those first interactions? And they'll say something like, or they may say something like, well, I was absolutely blown away by her. She was intelligent, she was witty, she was so excited about life, and that made me feel really good. And then I'll ask the partner if they knew that. And most of the time, they haven't got a clue that the partner felt that way. And I think that's a shame, because that information is so important to make a partner understand how you feel and how valued that they can feel, but they've never had that communication. So affection and fondness can't stay in the mind. If you feel affection for somebody, if you feel a fondness towards somebody, it needs to be communicated, and it needs to be communicated regularly in small, regular doses. And one of the keys here is that you express your gratitude and fondness for really, really small things, trivial things, and never take your partner for granted. And someone may well say, why should I thank him for washing up when it's his turn? Or why should I express gratitude for something that she is expected to do around the house, because I do my share and I'm not appreciated? And then, well, you can ask, well, do you like not feeling appreciated? Well, the answer is no. Do you both feel unappreciated? Well, yes. So, well, what are you going to do about it? Start to express appreciation. It's not rocket science. If you don't feel appreciated, then start to appreciate each other in small little things by telling them that and meaning it as well. And the rewards for that, they bring the relationship closer together and start to create intimate patterns within the relationship that are so beneficial. So start to express appreciation. Start doing that. If you're not doing that, start doing it today. Work at it and keep working at it and working at it until it's a habit, until it's something that you both enjoy and something that you can do together and enjoy receiving that as well as giving it. Okay, so the third principle for friendship, I find this probably the most interesting one, really, and this is called bidding. So this is great research from John Gottman and over 20 years of research over lots of thousands of people. And I think it may have mentioned to you that from these principles, you can predict if a couple will stay together or separate, and it's 94% accurate. That's how good this information is. So that's very, very good research, very good results. So bidding, what researchers has discovered is that when two people hang around together, the way they build intimacy is done in very tiny moments. They make little bids for emotional connections. And that basically means that they're making bids for the attention of their partner. So let's say that your partner comes home and says, I've had a really tough day today at work. And you can say, yeah, me too. Well, that's called turning away. Now, some people may say, well, I'm sure you have, which isn't exactly turning away. It's a form of turning towards, because it demonstrates you've listened, but really what that statement is, I've had a tough day today at work, means is I need to talk. It's a bid for attention. So if your partner comes home and said, I've had a tough day today, and you say, well, so have I, what you've done is you've both turned away from each other and you've created a distance between you, which breaks down intimacy. So this bidding process, the idea of these small bids for attention are very, very important. And you need to listen out for these and pick up at them. So if your partner comes home and says they've had a really rubbish day and it's been really stressful, the ideal thing is to say, okay, come on, let's sit down, let's have a drink, and let's talk it through. Now, that is enthusiastically turning towards your partner's needs and bringing you together to create bonds of intimacy and closeness. So what happens if I or somebody makes a bid for attention and your partner turns away? They don't acknowledge it, perhaps they don't say anything at all, or they just say something about themselves and they turn away. So I say I've had a tough day today and I don't get a response from my partner, or I get a response that is just reflective of how they feel. Well, I'll either say it again more aggressively to try to get their attention because I'm bidding for their attention. I need attention. I have an issue. We need to sort this out together. So I'm going to say it more aggressively to make sure they've heard it. Or I'll think, I don't know why I bother. Why do I even bring these things up? And what that means is that you are destroying any levels of trust that you have within the relationship. Any trust that you've invested into the relationship, these acts of turning away break down the trust within the relationship. And the probability of rebidding, so going through that motion again for the same thing, after the initial response is almost zero in all relationships. You don't pick up on that initial bid straight away, and you don't turn towards your partner, you're not going to get it back second time. you've lost that opportunity. So these tiny moments in a relationship are small investments into the successful future of the relationship. It's like building up a bank account of emotional connections. And what that means is all these emotional connections will build up, they'll be saved up. And then what that means is you create a resilience within the relationship so that, if a time comes around that your partner's moody or irritable or you feel a little bit distance, then these emotional connections that are already banked up means that you don't create a further distance between you, because those emotional connections that you've built up over time hold you together. And it's acceptable to be moody or irritable because we're human beings, but you need to have built up with that bidding, that resilience and those defense mechanisms so that you don't drift apart when one of you is in a bad mood or not in a good place. Now, couples that don't have those three principles in place, the foundational principles of friendship, if you haven't got those in place, will do just the opposite. When something really, maybe quite trivial happens, one partner leaves something a bit untidy and the other points it out, and they can point it out in a very pleasant way or in a nice way. The other partner is more than likely going to turn very defensive and turn it round onto the other person. So, oh, you don't mind tidying that little bit of mess, I can see a bit of mess. Well, it's not me that leaves the mess, it's always you, okay? Creating a divide, no bidding, absolutely separation, breaking down the levels of trust. And that's because without the three principles that we've talked about, without having worked on, mapping out your knowledge of each other, working on your fondness and your admiration, and paying attention to bidding, partners begin to see their significant other as controlling and manipulative. And regular questions or requests are interpreted as you controlling them or wanting to get one over on them, because there's no levels of friendship there. That's very, very common, and it's often seen as controlling, and that's why people tend to think that they have a controlling partner, because they don't have those bonds of friendship. So demands tend to be interpreted as being controlled. And that's the reason for it, that the lack of these three principles, they create a negative sentiment in your personality. But if you adopt the three principles, then you create a positive sentiment. You feel good about each other, you feel closer to each other, and the friendship is much closer and much more intimate. And you don't feed off negative behaviors, and you don't allow a response which is conducive to negativity. So you feel better about the relationship if you've been working on these principles, and the odd bit of negativity will just bounce off you and you'll feel stronger about it. So there you go. You want a great relationship, then you have to have a best friend. And if you want to have a best friend, you have to really know what makes a best friend. And those are the principles that make friendship within a relationship. So I hope that's really helpful for you. I found the research on this absolutely fascinating. So I hope that is simply put. I hope you can understand how to do that. And I hope that if you're not doing that, that you'll start to incorporate it into your relationship, so that things can work better for you and you get better levels of communication. If you've got any questions for me, I'm on Facebook, private message me, put them on a post, just ask away. I'm always happy to answer, or to do a live to help you work through your problems. If you'd like further information, send me a message. Click on my banner on Facebook. You can go through to a link on there. You can have 15 minutes with me on the phone to discuss issues, whatever suits you. But guys, think about your relationship. A good relationship is a third of your life. Another third of your life is sleep. So it's a big part of your life. Get it right. Make it work. And between the two of you, you can do that if you get your minds together. So take those tips. I hope they help you. I hope things, if they aren't so good, can start to be better by using those tips. And I'll see you on the next Facebook Live. So thank you so much for joining me.